socialstudiesgames.us, Unit 6, Video 6, as always. It's based on the AP guidelines. We got a challenging one here for you today. That's what we talked about yesterday, the Populist Party platform. That's simple compared to what we're doing. Defining referendums, recalls, that's simple. Today we're going to debate gold and silver. Probably we're not going to debate it. You should be able to describe the debate. You're going to be able to describe monetary policy. You got to hang with me. This is a very challenging topic. Make sure your brain's on. Make sure that you're focused. But let me tell you, if it confuses you, don't worry. If it's too complex, don't worry. Just keep thinking about it. And through the video, I'm going to keep chipping away, and you're going to end up with a general idea. Don't give up. At first, it won't make any sense, and then it still won't make any sense. But as I go through example after example, one of them will stick, and you'll kind of get an idea of how money and the money supply works and how its value goes up, and sometimes the value of money goes down. It's hard for us to understand because when you have a $10 bill, it's worth $10. It's not worth $5. It's not worth $20. It's worth $10. But that's not true. Oh my God, my head's going to explode. A $10 bill is not worth $10. That's right. You got to hang in there. And if I got to record this video over to make it better, then I'll do that. But just hang in and try to do your best to pay attention. You're not going to completely figure it all out. But if you get a kind of an idea and you start warming in the direction of it, then that's good enough. So let's go back in time. Let's talk about the Panic of 1893. Remember J.P. Morgan? Everybody was building railroads because that was a way to make money. Unfortunately, they built too many railroads. And as the supply of anything goes up, its value goes down. It drops out. And what happened was the whole economy based around railroads crashes, and with that, it brings down the entire economy. As the railroads shut down, a lot of the money that was used to pay for the railroads and a lot of the money that was borrowed to invest in railroads come from banks. And when the railroad goes down, the railroad company can no longer pay back its loans. And this guy who borrowed money, he borrowed money to buy shares of the railroad. And when it goes down, well, he can no longer pay back his money. So basically, the bank shuts down. And so what you have was a railroad problem that then turns into a bank problem. And when the banks no longer have money, then the rest of the country goes with it. This is called the Panic of 1893. The money supply. If you suck the money out of the economy, you would know this. Imagine that you don't have any money. Imagine that your parents' bank account is empty. Imagine no one has any money. Okay, well, maybe we'll make it through today. But what about tomorrow? What about next week? Can you live a month without money? Now, maybe it's not everyone. Just imagine 1/3 of America. 1/3 of the population doesn't have money. What will happen to that 1/3 of the population after a month, after 2 months? Bad things, right? Now imagine that this is a time where the government doesn't really do anything. They don't really help you out during the hard times. So you just are going to have to starve, and you're not going to pay rent. This is really bad. Panic of 1893, really bad. Fun story about J.P. Morgan here. Before, he'll end up buying all these railroads and creating a monopoly after the fact. But one of his first business ventures was during the Civil War. He bought a bunch of guns for $7 a piece. And then he turned around and went to the military on the battlefield and sold them to them for $22 a piece, which is basically what we would call arbitrage. But that's not the fun part of the story. The fun part of the story is that the guns malfunction. That's not actually fun. It's terrible. It's ruthless. This is cutthroat business. Sells the guns. They malfunction. They blow off soldiers' hands. When you cock back, they're blowing up. They're blowing the guy's hands off. So that was J.P. Morgan. That was his first business venture. Turned $7 guns into $22. He didn't turn them in. He just raised the price. He went to the battlefield, took it directly to the consumer, rejected the price. They malfunctioned. So this Panic of 1893 happens, and a lot of Americans are struggling. Here's a tear. He's crying. It's so bad. That's what happens. Panics are a lot like recessions or depressions. And it's bad when people march on Washington. You're saying, well, dude, everybody marches on Washington. There's a protest on Washington every week. It's a lot different now, dude, when you have cars and airplanes. These people some of them literally had to walk to Washington, D.C. It wasn't easy to get the masses, especially the poor, unemployed masses, to a protest. This is called Jacob Coxey's Army. populist protests during Panic of 1893, and they're basically begging the government, you need to create jobs. We're not asking you for a handout. We need some sort of government-based public works. Pay us to build some roads, or pay us to work in the park. Give us a job. Somehow give us something. Help us, government. And the government doesn't do anything. All right, now we're going to get into, that's the easy part of the lesson. Now we're going to get into the part where we talk about monetary policy. And a lot of this is happening with the backdrop of the Panic of 1893. The economy is struggling. People are struggling. They want the government to do something. The government needs to help us out. And one of the things that the government can do is change the monetary policy. In 1900, if you were to give your money to the bank, you could actually buy gold because all of the money was simply a receipt. Paper money was simply a receipt for gold. That's the way it used to work. Did I spell receipt right? I hope that I spelled receipt right because I can't change that now. Basically, this thing is a receipt for your gold. You put your gold in, they give you a receipt that basically says, bring this piece of paper back and I will give you your gold back. That's how the original banks worked, and that's what paper money is. You could exchange your gold for money. Every dollar that was printed had to be backed by gold. The government could not make money unless it had the gold in its vaults, and that maintained a steady, constant value of the dollar bill. It was all based on a real, rare, valuable metal. Money was not made up. It was not just some piece of paper. These Federal Reserve notes, well, this is before the Federal Reserve, they were based on gold. They were a representation. They were a receipt for the gold. And if you wanted, you could put your money in the bank and get the gold. But for the most part, you would use the money because it's much easier to go from store to store and to pay for things with money. If you take a bar of gold, what are you going to do? Chip off a little piece and say, all right, I want a cheeseburger. So what is that? Is that about a gram of gold? All right, let me just chisel off a little piece of gold. And it's much easier to use the money. Today, we don't have that. Today, we no longer have the gold standard. This was called the gold standard, and all the money in circulation was based on how much gold we had in the banks. Today, the money is just money. It's just paper. It is not a representation of gold. And then you say, well, then it's not worth anything. Oh my God, the world's going to end. Well, not really. So, and this is a long story, and we'll talk more about this in social studies later on, but your money is worth something because the government says it is. And you're probably rolling your eyes right now saying, are you crazy? Just because the government says money is money doesn't mean it's money. Well, yeah, it is. This is called a fiat currency, and that comes from the translation of just let it become. So just let it be. It's money because it's money. And this is the way it is around the world. No one today is on a gold standard. No one has dollar bills that are backed up by a gold currency. You can't turn your money into gold through the government. It's all money just because it's money. And that might scare you a little bit, and it should, but one of the things that you can say at least is we have a stable government compared to any other country. And when we have a stable government, if they say the money is worth something, then dagnammit, the money is worth something. That is the way it goes. This is a fiat currency. That's today. Today we do not have a gold standard. And the money is the money, and the government can print money whenever they want, and the government can stop printing money whenever they want. They don't need a specific amount of gold bars in their vaults. If they feel like we need more money, then they can print it. And if they feel like, we got too much money, then they are allowed to stop printing it because they say so. It's been like this for a while. We have just pretty much become accustomed to it. That is today. The time period that we are studying, it is much different. They are on the gold standard. We'll get back to that in a second. Let's continue with printing money and how money works, how the economy works. You take your money, you spend it at the store, they give you a PlayStation 4. That is awesome. The store or the shop then takes that money to buy more workers because they have to buy and build more PlayStation 4s. So again, let's rewind that. You spend your money at the store. They sell you a PlayStation 4. They use some of their money and it goes to the factory. The factory hires more workers. Why did they hire more workers? Because they've got to build more PlayStation 4s and they sell them to the store. And then, hey, guess what? He's a worker. And so he has money and he's going to spend his money. He's going to buy a PlayStation 4. Guess what? They're going to use some of that money to buy more PlayStation 4s. And when they buy more PlayStation 4s, we end up with more workers. And if we have more workers, and you see how this works? You see how it all started with you buying it, then that guy bought it, and we've actually created jobs. You, give him some teeth, created jobs. Good job, dude, by spending money. So the more spending will result eventually in more workers. And more workers means even more spending. Money being spent creates workers, and that guy is going to spend money, and then that's going to create more workers, and he's going to spend money, and when he spends money, it creates even more workers, and then that guy spends money. That's how it works. And if we really want to break it down to a root, if we want to find one source, we could say that more dollar bills is going to be more spending, and more spending will mean more workers. And if we have more workers, they have even more spending. So you know what? We just need more money. This goes back to the last video with the populace saying unlimited coinage of silver dollars. We need more free silver is one of the terms that was used by the Silverites and the populace during this time, because more money means more spending, means more workers. Now, cool, that is great. And you're sitting there in front of your computer screen thinking, all right, well, this is 2000, whatever year that you're sitting there. And if we just put more money in the economy, more spending, there'll be more jobs and everything will work out. So the government can do this now, right? Because the government doesn't have a gold standard. The government can just print money whenever they want. So why not just print money whenever they want? They kind of do. And they have been doing this actually for the last 10 years. So that's good. Or is it not good? We're going to have some issues. Government prints money, creates more workers. Everyone agrees there. If there's more money, there's more spending, there's more workers. This sounds awesome. I should have picked a word that required less spelling. Okay, let's rewind. Let's talk about some basic economic principles. Demand goes up, price. We've talked about those before. But what I want to focus on is a concrete law of economics, and that is supply. When supply of anything, supply of gold, the supply of silly bands, the supply of Yeezys, the supply of cheeseburgers, the supply of anything, the supply of massages, the supply of yoga instructors. When the supply is down, the price of that good or service goes up. If there is only one place where you can learn yoga, you're probably going to have to pay more. If there's a lot of places where you can learn yoga, then they're going to compete. If there's a lot of places that teach yoga, then they're going to compete and they're going to drive the price down, and you're going to learn how to meditate and you're going to learn how to stretch your body and contort your body for a low, low price. But if there's only one in town, price is up. If there's only one guy teaching you MMA and how to do a rear naked choke or whatever that is, if there's only one guy showing you how to knock people out, he's probably going to charge you more. But if there is a guy on every corner of the street showing you how you can knock people out and make them submit and tap out, the price will go down. That might not resonate with you. How about I say this? When there is not very much gold, when gold is rare, when gold chains and bling are rare, guess what? It costs a lot. Now, if there was a lot of gold chains, if there was a lot of bling, then it's not very valuable at all, is it? Fake diamonds. Real diamonds, cubic zirconium. Real gold, fake metal painted yellow. Price is low. Supply and demand. And folks, this is everything. Everything. You know it, you live by it. If there are a low supply of doctors, then doctors get paid more. And if there are a high supply, a lot of people that can flip cheeseburgers, because I can flip a cheeseburger, you can flip a cheeseburger. Your 5-year-old sister is probably smart enough to flip a cheeseburger. Now, I don't say this to denigrate fast food workers. I was a fast food worker. I worked at McDonald's and I worked in dining halls. I know what the job requires, and it's not a lot of skill. I'm sorry if you're a fast food worker. And if you're a fast food worker, you can probably say, yeah, you're right. It's not that difficult. If it's not that difficult, then you have a high supply of those workers. If there's a high supply of those workers, or that means the boss can choose from a bunch of different people. So you got a bunch of people competing for that one job of flipping burgers. Typically, they will pay the person that agrees to the lowest price. That's why fast food workers don't get paid much. You have a high supply of people that can flip burgers. And so the fast food joint says, all right, whoever of you, 100 people are willing to work for $7, I will hire you. And of course, you go through those 100 people, some people are going to say, not me, man. I ain't working for no $7. And I would say, I'm not working for $7. And then Bill's like, I'm not working for $7. And then Steve's like, well, I need this job.